Hey everyone, welcome to Back at the Ranch. I am your host, Danny Knaub. It's the Expedition Online's official after show. I'm here with our latest contestant who was sadly voted out, Swap Skirt. I think it's safe to say. Jack, how are you doing today?
I'm doing all right. It's good to be at the ranch. I'm pretty content with how I played. I mean, I don't feel like I did anything too egregiously wrong, but you get swapped under the minority, and two compasses are in play. It's hard to find your way out of that one, but it's a historic way to go out and go out with a bang, I guess.
It was definitely, we'll get there, but it was definitely a very crazy crossroads. I mean, as just a viewer, as a fan, you live for those moments. I mean, you want to kind of be, like you're saying, part of history, part of something exciting. So you definitely pulled that off for us. So thank you. But before we get in, I mean, just how did you find us, and how surprised were you when Ethan, like the Ethan Survivor Africa winner, jumps onto a Zoom and like literally handpicks you? Like, that's got to be kind of exciting.
It was pretty surreal. So I found you guys through Tyson Apostle's Instagram, but also through Survivor Reddit. I applied for season 1, did not make the cut, but came back with a vengeance and made the cut for season 2. In terms of surprise on Ethan coming, it was obviously something that I was hoping for, but because I watched season 1 and Ethan would pop up in the chat every once in a while on Twitch, I had a sneaking suspicion that he potentially was one of the captains. And then it really hit me when on day 0, Janet accidentally popped in for like 3 seconds. And I was like, well, if Janet's one of the captains, then the only other person, that means there are captains. And the only person that I think also knows about this game is Ethan. But I was super excited when he picked me, and it was pretty cool.
Nice. And so rumor has it that you knew a few people that ended up on your party. So who did you know kind of coming into this game?
Yeah, I got very lucky. So I played in a mini version of this. Potentially some of the viewers may have seen it. But it was Expedition Online Trail of the Deserted, which made an appearance on a short stint on this season. But I played on that. I was voted off 4th. It was a very fast-paced game, so it was kind of hard to get your bearings. If your name is thrown out, kind of snowball effect, you can't really stop it. So I played with Garrett. He actually won, so congratulations to Garrett. And so we kind of came in. We had not communicated. I didn't know he was playing, but I just happened to be on the same starting tribe. So I guess Ethan was trying to set me up for success. And we just quickly talked in the beginning, got like a quick understanding that we were going to be working together. It was in our best interest to move forward as a unit instead of against each other, because then it would have just become some gross mudslinging competition of, oh, he played, no, he played, well, he won, etc. And then I also knew Ryan we were both taking a gap year before going to the same college. We're both from Massachusetts. I don't know him too well, but that was something that made it easier for me to calm my nerves going into the opening tribe. Having the two people that I knew in the game on my tribe was nice. I was proud of Ethan for picking those two.
Well, I mean, that's kind of crazy because, like you said, they ended up on your tribe or onto your party. So once the teams and both parties are chosen, just overall, how are you feeling? Do you feel like you guys have it in the bag? Are you worried that the other team is more stacked against you? Like, just how are you feeling before we even go into that first challenge?
I was feeling good. I liked the people that got picked just based on day 0, talking to them. I'm never really confident in this game. I think that's a curse. But I was hopeful that we could do well in the challenges and that we would stay as a solid group, because everyone seemed to really appreciate the game, appreciate Survivor and Expedition Online. And they all seemed like nice people. So.
Yeah. Well, and so besides Garrett and Ryan, was there anybody else that you were sort of like vibing with off the bat? Like, were you trying to, like, what was your strategy just coming into this game?
Yeah, I was trying to play a lot more reserved game, a lot more social. I think I found myself in my first season, although it was very, very quick. I was trying to play very strategic. I'd liken it maybe to like a bad game by Spencer Bledsoe. And so I was coming in with more Spencer Bledsoe's second chance vibes, maybe a little more social, really looking out for people, because those in a longer game, that's what's going to pay off long term. It was tricky to get like a quick input on, or not input, for lack of a better word, I'll say input on my tribe because we did the draft and then went right into the challenge. So I wasn't like, oh yeah, I don't know them, because I didn't have the opportunity to talk to any of them on day 0, unfortunately. But going into the tribe, I was like, going into the challenge, I was like, oh, this seems like a good group. Maybe we'll win. Maybe we won't. But hopefully we win. And we did it.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely, it was a hard beginning for you guys. So, I mean, Ethan lost both of the first 2 challenges. So, looking at both of those challenges, it felt like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it felt like you were in the majority, kind of helping steer some of the decisions. So talk to me a little bit about why Will? Why was Will the first one voted out?
This is so tricky because it was so early. There wasn't like a main reason to vote people out. It's not like a glaring technical difficulty, which is something that you see in those early votes on an online game such as this. But the main reason that the name Will came out was because on day 0, he was so vocal about how big of a Survivor fan he was. And it's ironic because in order for us to be playing this game, we're all going to be big Survivor fans to some extent. But the fact that he was so vocal about it made people nervous about his strategic ability, because if you're a big fan of the show, you know how to play this game strategically. And it didn't help that he lost both of his rounds in the first challenge, but it really isn't his fault. I'd just say he potentially overplayed his hand on that first vote. I was attempting to stay out of the driving position, but I was trying to silently steer people in that direction towards Will. I was obviously trying to protect Garrett and Ryan, knowing that that's someone that I might have potentially more trust in, despite not having too much conversation with them. So even on day 0, whoever I talked to, I was like, wow, Will really knows this show. That's kind of scary. I wish I knew that much about the show. I mean, I would say I know pretty much the same amount as Will, but I was never going to reveal that. And so when I got in, it seemed that almost everyone by word of mouth had heard it on day 0. Like, wow, Will's really strategic. He knows Survivor really well. And it was a pretty easy, what would seem like a unanimous vote, but it ended up being 6-2.
Yeah. Was anybody aware that Will's brother is sort of big in the Expedition Online community?
He mentioned it on day 0, but no one. So he mentioned I'm not sure how many people. It was kind of nerve-wracking day 0. We were in a rush, but I'm not sure how many people remembered. But he was like, "Oh yeah, I heard about this from my brother. I'm playing. I think he might hold it over my head because he's done better than me." So I'm sure Will's not too happy that he went out first. But he actually said, yeah, my brother's played. And then Kyle from Team Janet was like, oh, would you mind telling us who your brother is? And he didn't say anything. I think he pretended like he didn't hear it. But I definitely wrote that down. I'm not sure how many other people did. So I had totally forgot about it, and it didn't go into my reasoning for voting him off. But
yeah. Well, for anyone who's watching at home, his brother Wesley played
wow.
3 and 4 of Survivor Online. So I played with his brother, and then Wesley played in one of the Expedition minis and won. So
yes, I watched that.
Really, 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 really good at this game.
Very good socially. I remember watching the mini. He was doing a very good job keeping whoever he wanted in the game.
So as you're saying, I mean, day 1, it's really challenging because you just don't have a lot to go on. So unfortunately, Will is the first one to go home, basically just because he has a lot of knowledge, talked about that. Easy vote. Going into day 2, I'm sure you guys are feeling a little defeated. You lose your second challenge in a row. So what is the feeling now? Like, who are you thinking needs to go? Who's really controlling this vote?
So after night 1, I kind of wrote down who I was keen on working with and who I thought I don't want to work with long term. So Chantel, Garrett, Ryan, Gabe, and Gideon, I had kind of, it just seemed, because there was a 6-2 vote and we thought it was going to be 7-1, everyone just kind of deduced that Hannah was likely the one that also put the vote on Gabe. I'm not sure if it's right. I mean, I'm sure I'll see it in the future, but I'm pretty confident in that fact. Oh, it's not right. Well, that makes me look not Too
No,
smart.
I had written down that it was Gideon and Gabe that voted. So Gideon was
For
for,
Gideon and Gabe.
yeah.
I'm talking about on night one, not on night two.
Oh,
Gideon
sorry.
and Gabe definitely voted for Hannah on
Sorry.
night two. But I believe Hannah was the one that stuck the second vote on Gabe. So that was my initial thought. I was like, oh, I guess we'll vote Hannah because she didn't vote with the majority, and we don't want the tribe to be in a like just split. I want to stay as unified as possible for the potential of a swap, which, as you can see, because I'm sitting here, definitely happened. It was pretty devastating to lose a second tribal. I mean, I don't know if you were familiar with my mini, but I did not win a single challenge on my mini. We went 0 for 5 right in a row, and then I got voted off fifth. So I thought I was cursed at this point. I was 0 for 7. I was like, wow, I'm just going to be the Denise of Expedition Online, and I'm going to go to every tribal. Hopefully I win. But dreams didn't come true. And then the night two happened, and the two groups seemed to form. Ryan had been talking about let's get a young person's alliance going, which would include Gabe, Gideon, Ryan, and myself. Two 18-year-olds, a 19-year-old, and Gabe, who I thought was younger, but he's actually 23. Still very young, comparatively speaking to the rest of the population. But and the other group was Chantel and Garrett, and then not necessarily Hannah, but Hannah by default because the young group was targeting Hannah. Chantel and Garrett were very nervous about that young person's alliance. And I was already grouped into that, so it could have easily been a 4-3 vote, but I didn't really want to work with the younger people. I found Chantel and Garrett I've seen Garrett's gameplay before, and I know he likes to stick to the numbers, and he's going to be like a loyal alliance member. And Chantel's old school. She's going to tell you how it is. She's a straight shooter. So I also wanted her in my alliance, and I realized that if I blindsided Hannah and Chantel's someone that probably would not be too happy with me. Whereas I figured that maybe someone in the younger group, because they're like fans of the newer game, big moves, they might respect the fact and be able to move on a lot easier. So they tried to pull me in, and I jumped ship to join that older alliance, which is kind of a crazy name for a group of 24 and 30-year-olds. But I joined them, and then knowing that I didn't want to leave Ryan out of the vote, I also convinced them to let me go tell Ryan about the plan. So it ended up being a 5-2 vote. It's just lucky that I happened to be in the swing vote position that night, which puts me in a position of power. My ideal 4 was Chantel, Garrett, Ryan, and myself, and they were content with voting off Hannah the next night, as long as we weakened that young person's alliance, which wasn't even really a thing.
So Gabe is the second person to be deserted. So then obviously you guys do get a win under your belt, which is
it's all I could ask for. I mean, if I could come out of one thing from this season, it's that I finally won a challenge as a group. But
curse is broken.
I know.
Until we get into the swap. So obviously, there's no pretty way to put it. I mean, you guys, very even-ish swap. Sometimes you get swaps where it's like one person that gets screwed. So it was actually fairly even-ish, but you now end up going to you remain on team Ethan. And there are 3 of you from the original versus 4 Team Janet. So you're already in sort of this position, not in power, but you're still with Ryan. So that's a positive.
Yes.
And Gideon. So, just obviously we go into the challenge, which is, I think, everyone's favorite. It's the, getting to run around the house, grabbing all the scavenger hunt. So when you find out that both parties are going to
the challenge was actually the backwards bowling.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, but it was pretty frustrating to hear that both parties were going to tribal. Having seen season 1, I know it's hard to go off of like instinct from what happened in the previous season. Obviously the season before, the split was not nearly as even. It was like 6-1 on one tribe, 4-3 on the other. But having seen that, I had a feeling there was going to be a double tribal, and I knew that there was going to be individual immunity up for grabs. My hope, which from a production game standpoint, I was hoping that Docs wouldn't say that before and would tell us after the challenge that there was individual immunity and that both parties were going to tribal, because I was hoping that potentially if they didn't know that, the Team Janet people would try to throw the challenge, and that would give me a better chance of getting individual immunity. But I totally understand. It makes sense for him to tell them, because although it would have benefited me, it would have like screwed over those 14 Janet people. But I was I had my fingers crossed that maybe Docs would throw me a bone and not tell them, and they would roll 3 zeros, and then I would get individual immunity that night.
So what is your strategy at this point? Because you guys actually got to sit in and you watched the first Crossroads. So you see that Jennifer is the one who is sent packing. So what is your strategy? Because obviously it's not 1 against 6, it's 3 against 4. So in a way, it's like you just need one person to pull in. So how are you all dividing and conquering, or who are you talking to? Like, what is your attempt to figure this out? And we'll get into the compasses shortly, but before before all that happened, like, what was just your strategy?
So obviously going in, I'm trying to find cracks in that 4 to potentially flip it. They seemed very solid, just like based on my first reactions. So then it goes from, can we flip someone and take out Team Janet, to how do I stay alive and how do I push the target onto someone else in my minority alliance, unfortunately for my partners in crime. So I was trying to play very like real, honest social gameplay with all the people from Team Janet, just appease to their sympathy, their pity, whatever I could. I was, talking to Daniel. I was like, well, Daniel, I remembered from night 1, I was like, Daniel, you're a therapist. Can you give me any tips for the anxiety I have going into this vote? And he's like, oh, don't worry, I'll vouch for you. And I'm telling them, like, I want to work with Team Janet people in the future, come merge, because I don't think you can win a game with just pagonging the other alliance. That just doesn't happen in a game like this when there's that many young people. I think they're going to want to make big moves. You saw like Alex, Kimmy last season, they wanted to make moves and they weren't comfortable just destroying Team Rob. So I knew eventually I would have to. So that I wasn't lying to them. I would like to work with them. So I was just pulling at their heartstrings, trying to get them to like me. I really feel like I did a good job with Maddie and Daniel. I didn't get to talk to Rob, and I pretty quickly assessed that Kyle was kind of the head honcho in that alliance. So I figured if I could appeal to his, like, they told me that he was an honest guy, just like straight up. And I was like, well, if I'm honest with him and I tell him what our plan is, he'll protect me. And that gets me another day in this game. And I was pretty sure he had a compass, just based on the way he was kind of talking to me, playing. He was not very nervous. He was kind of like, he was saying he was nervous, but it really didn't look believable. So I was like, well, if we're targeting Kyle, I wanted to get the chance to talk to Gideon again and potentially change the vote. It was too late. And, it's just a hunch. You can't really go off that as a main reason to target someone else. I was hoping that Gideon had an advantage, and because I felt okay about my ability to push the votes off of me from a social standpoint, but then getting into the Crossroads, I thought I was dead in the water when Kyle started throwing out what had been said about me, like in the rooms that I wasn't in. But
yeah, I mean, again, as a spectator, that was such a crazy Crossroads because so much was being said. So when everyone goes to vote, obviously you're voting for Kyle, and you see that these 2 compasses are played, which are, kudos to Gideon and Kyle because they played them. That's what you have to do.
Great job.
They played them perfectly. Are you thinking you're screwed, or are you thinking you might have a chance?
I was pretty confident once those 2 compasses came out. Wow, yeah, it's me. Because that vote that and from the majority alliance standpoint, came down to me or Gideon. Ryan was never really in discussion, which is a testament to Ryan, but also just um, it proved that Gideon and I had bigger targets going into that. I don't really know where they pulled that, but Gideon did tell them all that I had played before and that Garrett was the other person that had played before, so they were scared of that. So it was an uphill battle for me to get the votes on to Gideon, and luckily I did. I voted for Gideon because my theory was Gideon like threw me under the bus. I had already blindsided Gideon, so long term he's not going to want to vote for me. If I could potentially vote for Gideon, he goes home in the event that he didn't have a compass in a 5-2 vote. That ingratiates me with the majority alliance, and they don't target me at the next vote. They target Ryan. Unfortunately, but it's like,
look, as a spectator, that's a solid strategy. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense, and that's smart because, you know, if you know that you don't have the majority votes to send somebody home, if you join the other side, that gets some goodwill. So I think that's a very solid strategy. You know, you just got compass screwed.
yeah, you know. But hindsight, I really wish that Gideon. It's tricky because I did blindside Gideon, and that makes it hard for him to trust me. But I really wish that he had told me that he had the compass, because in my mind, if he has a compass, and I've done all that I can to get the votes onto Gideon, best case scenario, he plays his compass, he nullifies all the votes against him, which is what happened. But if he had told me, then I would have brought up the opportunity of a minority split vote, which I think would have worked. So obviously would have worked very well in this situation, but it's also low risk, high reward, because you're already in the minority. So if you're wrong about where the compass is going, you're going home for 3 if you don't split the vote. And it's very unlikely that they split the vote, as the majority alliance with only a 1 number advantage. So there's really nothing wrong with potentially voting a 4-2-1 and trying to stop the 4 and take out someone with the 2 or the 1. But I mean, Gideon survived, so it doesn't really matter. I went home, so that's all he could really ask for. But if he had told me the potential for a Team Janet to be chopped off in that vote was probably a lot higher.
Yeah. Well, Jack, you know, sometimes these games are weird. You know, a lot of it's luck, a lot of it's strategy. It's a combination. I mean, it's a really difficult game to get to the end in because you have so many variants. Any final thoughts or final words?
Yeah, I talked about this. Part of the reason that I think for someone like me that this game would be lower, like I could fail a lot harder than I could on maybe if I played Survivor, because I don't have the same safety net on Survivor. These challenges are very just random, like, oh, scavenger hunt in your house, like bowling through the legs if they can. On Survivor, I'm going to have that safety net early on as like a young, physical, semi-athletic guy. They're probably not going to target me first unless I make an egregious mistake. And I'll survive a couple votes just based on the fact that they need me to win challenges. In this game, it's a lot harder, and it comes down to, I think, more social and strategy, which I think is, in a way, like these games in its truest form, because it doesn't like just rely on physical ability. But overall, it was really fun to play. I had a good time. You know, I got unlucky, but kudos to the people that found compasses and took me out. You know, what else can I say?
Would you play again?
Yeah, I would totally play again. I think I would wait a little bit. I know I was talking to some of the other people in the community that had played when it was Survivor Online, and I know that there was a second chance season.
Yeah.
I do not think the minis are my style. I like the longer version of the game, so I don't know if that's something down the tunnel. Maybe like 5 Expedition Online seasons in, maybe there's a second chance season, and I can somehow wiggle my way into that one. But maybe I'll play in a mini. I definitely have fun. It's a good way to like pass time, and especially during quarantine and stuff, just like occupy, meet some new people. It's great. Yeah.
Well, welcome to the fun. So I don't know if anyone's told you about it. Obviously, a lot of us are all friends. We all hang out, play games, talk, watch these minis and games together. So, hopefully we'll get to see more of you if there's a second chance season. Hopefully we'll see you on there. Final question: who are you rooting for?
It's got to be Ryan. I think that well, I don't know how much I can talk about. I guess I can't talk. I know what's happened in the next couple of days in the game because this is after the fact. I won't say it because if this is posted, then I guess it spoils it.
Yeah.
But I really feel like after I got voted out, he was still in a pretty good position. He plays a really interesting game. It's like super under the radar. He's not really going to get, his name never really gets thrown out. Even on our original tribe, it never got thrown out. And, I know Ryan, so I'm hoping he can pull it off. It's going to be tough, but I think in a game like this where there's like big threats, you look at Justin, he made a big move, fell short, but like when we were watching that tribal, I was like, wow, he went all out. That puts a big target on his back. Garrett's a previous winner. That puts a target on his back. Kyle and Gideon just played compasses. That's a target. Gabe came back from the trail that deserted. That's a story to any jury. So there are a lot of people that I think have bigger targets than Ryan. I think he's someone that if he can get to the rendezvous, he can maybe slither his way to the end. And based on his social play, he might be able to snag enough votes to win.
Well, we shall see. Everyone at home, a lot of games still to be played. Jack, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me here today. Absolute pleasure. Everyone at home, I'll see you on the next episode. So thank you all so much.
Yeah, thanks.